Imagine in America, where the Civil War still comes, but no single voice ever fully defines what it's for. No figure able to turn a collapsing union into a moral story ordinary Americans could recognize themselves inside. The war still happens. The blood is still real. But the meaning never quite settles. At first, the absence barely registers. Politics remain bitter. States argue. Congress fractures along familiar lines. When conflict finally breaks into open war, it looks, on paper, much the same. Armies form, newspapers choose sides, factories shift toward weapons. But something crucial is missing from the national atmosphere: a shared emotional frame. Without Abraham Lincoln, the conflict begins as a fight over power and legality, not destiny. That changes how Americans experience it in real time. The war feels transactional instead of transformational. Northern support wavers more often. Elections become referendums on exhaustion rather than resolve. The language used in speeches, editorials, and church sermons stays procedural about preserving systems, not redefining them. The idea that the nation is being tested, rather than merely strained, never fully takes hold. Here's the part most people miss. Without a unifying moral narrative at the center, emancipation evolves differently. Slavery is still pressured by economics, battlefield realities, and international optics, but it arrives fragmented. Some states move faster, others resist longer. Freedom becomes uneven, negotiated, conditional. Instead of a singular turning point, Americans experience emancipation as a slow administrative shift. That changes public psychology. Freedom feels granted by policy, not earned through sacrifice. And that distinction lingers. In the midterm, the cultural effects compound. Memorials go up, but they commemorate loss more than meaning. National rituals form around mourning, not renewal. In schools, the war is taught as a tragic necessity instead of a redefining moment. Without a widely quoted voice tying suffering to purpose, Americans struggle to agree on what the war actually resolved. Regional narratives harden earlier. Reconciliation becomes quieter but shallower. Economically, the country still industrializes, but with less confidence in federal authority as a moral anchor. Big business grows, but distrust of centralized power deepens. Markets respond to uncertainty not with panic, but with caution. Risk-taking slows. The idea that national institutions can correct their own moral failures feels less proven. Progress continues, but with more skepticism baked in. Long-term, this America becomes functional, powerful, and uneasy with itself. The Constitution survives, but it is treated more like a contract than a promise. Civil rights movements still rise later, but they argue uphill without a widely accepted precedent that moral clarity can come from the center. Presidents speak carefully, avoiding grand claims about the nation's soul. Americans learn to expect stability, not transformation. And yet, this version of the country isn't weaker, just quieter. Less sure that suffering leads anywhere. Less convinced that unity requires belief instead of management. The systems hold. The flag flies. The economy grows. But the question never fully leaves the background. If a nation survives its greatest crisis without ever agreeing on what that crisis meant, what kind of confidence does it inherit afterward?